Okay. All right. So we were discussing about the workflow. Okay. The workflow patterns we have discussed. Okay. Why do we need a workflow? We have discussed about the uh, desirable characteristics of workflow. Okay. We have discussed about the reachability of the goal state. Okay. So all this workflow we have discussed. So basically, the workflow, that is workflow definition language, which I told you, you can explore using Windows Azure's Logic app. Okay, so that is basically used for a static workflow where the activity graph does not change. Okay, so once you have defined the workflow, it won't change much. So we need something for something called dynamic workflow. So there. The graph has to be modified based on each case. Okay, so it is case dependent, so it needs a more flexible approach. Okay, so the more flexible approach can be provided using two ways, that is, one is the strong coordination model and another is by weak coordination model. So in the strong coordination model, it is basically where a lot of process group will be there, means a group containing a lot of processes. Okay, and it will be executed under the supervision of a coordinator process. Okay, coordinator process. So here the coordinator process will be like in the consistent state and he will manage the operations of other sub process groups. So that is strong coordination model. When we are talking about the weak coordination model, okay, so here in the weak coordination model, there is basically no supervisory process. So it's basically like peer to peer communication is happening like that. Okay, so how the peer-to-peer communication happens? Sometimes it might be via a single configuration file. Okay, they and that is being updated and distributed to everyone. So that might be one of the possible ways. Okay, so these are the two ways in which we can actually implement the dynamic workflow. Okay, so now we'll move on to the zookeeper part. Okay, so why are we discussing the zookeeper part here? Okay, so we know that already that cloud computing, okay, has the elasticity property, which requires the ability to distribute the computing. Okay, distribute this computing across multiple systems. Okay, so basically what is required here is a coordination between these multiple systems so that it can function properly in a distributed environment. Okay, so the coordination basically means it can be coordination in data storage, or suppose sometimes it needs a orchestration for multiple activities. Sometimes it will need blocking of an activity, okay, so that another event can actually being triggered. Sometimes for some particular activity a consensus has to be reached. Okay, or sometimes a recovery from an error is required. So these are some of the coordination things which is expected. Okay, so if we take a small example here, okay, if it is like an advertising service, okay, so if an advertising service, it is dependent on multiple servers. Okay, multiple servers, and each server will be specific for some service. So one server will be exclusively for database access, another will be for monitoring purpose, another server will be for accounting, for another will be for event logging. Sometimes some server will be only providing the customer retrieval service like customer dashboard, means customer information. Okay, and another service will be just looking over the advertising campaign planner. Okay, so all a single basic advertising service. Okay, advertising service requires a coordination of multiple activities, and these multiple activities are basically in deployed in multiple servers. So how does a coordination happens here? Because it's dynamic, we cannot predict a single pattern here. Okay, so there are multiple systems and it has to be coordinated. So how does that coordination happens? Okay, so one way is, first one is, as we have already discussed, create a static workflow. But static workflow means, suppose I have a single coordination configuration file. So each server will have its own configuration file. It will be updated and it will be distributed among other servers. But there is a latency here. So that is sometimes it is not tolerated in a particular service. So what is a solution, workaround solution, if we need such a coordination with zero latency? Okay, so one solution is to have something called like a proxy coordination system. Okay, proxy coordination system, where there will be one proxy coordinator and he will coordinate all other servers. Okay, all other sub servers. So the main thing required is that proxy coordinator, okay, proxy coordinator or proxy server, that server should be in a just excuse me. Yeah. So that proxy server should be in a definite state. Means suppose if a command is received from one or other server, so it will sequentially follow which is the first command it received and how it is to be executed. Can it be executed using single-handed ownership, or does it require a consensus? So all these things is what is required, okay, for a dynamic coordination between these multiple activities. Okay, so the solution here, one of the solution which we're going to discuss here is about Zookeeper. Okay, so Zookeeper is basically a distributed coordination service, and it is based on this proxy coordination model. Okay, based on this proxy coordination model. So it has high throughput and low latency, which can be used for coordinating multiple activities, okay, in a large scale distributed system. And it is an open source software, so you are free to explore. Okay, you have to install the server API, okay, server API in multiple servers, okay, and client side API also. And once you have that application defined, what is your application which you're going to do, you can actually emulate the same using the Zookeeper API. Okay, so it's an open source and you can explore it at your end here, but we'll be explaining few things about the main parts of Zookeeper API. Okay, so how exactly the coordination happens? So there are multiple clients which needs to communicate with uh, or some which will have some request which has to be serviced. So it can get connected to any of the server which is there in the whole ensemble, or you can say a pack. Okay, pack. Okay, so if you have a multiple servers, each server deployed for some other activities, so that will form an ensemble or a group. But the client will never know that it is communicating to which server. What you will see a single state or a single image that it is communicating to one server, but it doesn't know on the background which server it is communicating with. Okay, so if it's simply a read operation, straight away it the data will be retrieved. Okay, and it will be reflected back to the client. Okay, so whenever there is a write operation request from the client, then there comes a picture of a leader. Okay, so leader has to be selected among these servers, so that leader election is done automatically. We don't have to do anything here. So these servers will take up the leader election. Okay, and whatever write requests are there, that will be forwarded to the leader. And once leader determine whether it can be done in consensus, okay, then the response is given. So we have a beautiful diagram here. This is a diagram which is from the textbook. So we have another beautiful diagram. So this diagram I have taken it from the uh, Apache directly from Zookeeper API link. Okay, so please you can visit that link. It has more details in it. Okay, so you can explore here. Um, so what happens here is, so if there is multiple clients, for a read request directly, the reply can be directly given to the client. But if there is a write request, that write request, suppose we have and the write request is given to a follower server, that write request will be actually forwarded to the leader. And once leader broadcast the broadcast the request, like whether this can be written, and maintain that every other follower is in that consistent state. Okay, only then the leader replies to that write request. Okay, so the write requests are forwarded to the leader and go through the majority consensus before the response can be generated. Okay, so this is another same diagram, but it is taken from the textbook, but I felt this diagram is more beautiful and it is more attractive, so I've just taken. Either way you can follow. Okay, so here see, read request directly from the database it is retrieved, a read request. If it is a write request, then there comes an atomic broadcast. So we'll see what is atomic broadcast. So how does the write request happens here? So the write request, whatever is there, it is so suppose if a follower server got the write request, that write request will be forwarded to the leader, and leader will uh, broadcast it to all of its followers, whether it can be written and whether all are in consistent state. Only then, once the consensus is received, only then the response will be given back. Okay, so this is the write request. Okay, so please note one more thing. In Zookeeper, okay, Zookeeper, whatever the requests are being generated from the client, everything is executed sequentially. Okay, sequentially means because otherwise it cannot maintain the consistency of the state. Okay, so everything is executed in FIFO order. Okay, so again the client must establish a session with service, okay, and submits the request the service request for a service to the for a particular server, and every request is will be like a session. Okay, so this is that. So how does the so we have these different leaders. Okay, we have different so architecture. How does the architecture of a Zookeeper tree looks like? So it forms a hierarchical architecture. Okay, and this architecture follows a absolute canonical path, means you cannot uh, specify a relative path. Okay, so every node will have the complete path of the structure. Okay, so that is, and in a Zookeeper, okay, in a Zookeeper, when we are forming a hierarchical path, means we will have one particular file. In that particular file, we will have child nodes. So that child node with the parent node, all that elements will be part of that path file. Okay, all that elements will be part of that path. Okay, so A have 1 and 2 as a child node. So please note here for 1, the parent node is also given and the root node is also given. So the whole path will have each of the parent node, the child node, everything. Okay, so it is absolute, no relative references is there. So these each of the nodes, okay, each of the nodes will have something. Each nodes in this Zookeeper is called as Z node. Okay, what is a Z nodes, we'll see here. And what does the Z node do? Okay, it maintains a static structure. So this static structure have these many elements in it. So these are the 10 elements. You don't have to go in detail, but just try to understand what these elements or how these elements will change. Okay, so the technical description in detail of these elements, it is not there in the textbook. Okay, but if you want, you may explore it. I have given the link in the notes of each of these slides. Suppose I have referred some other link, so that link is also given, so you may explore this. I'll just briefly tell you what is basically. So ZXID is mostly many of the parameters or attributes of the static structure is ZXID. Okay, so ZXID is basically the Zookeeper transaction ID. So that is represented by ZXID. So CZXID means it's the created transaction, Zookeeper transaction ID. So whenever a new item is being created, okay, so that whenever a new item is created, so first of all, suppose if it is a root node, that the initial node, in that case, usually the transaction ID will be everything is in hexadecimal. Okay, so you can see here the transaction ID is starting from the hexadecimal notation, that is 0x. Okay, so if it is just a basic hierarchical file space which does not have any child nodes, only the root node is there, in that case that created transaction ID will be initialized with 0. Okay, and This is MZXID. It is basically called modified transaction ID. So initially, when we are creating a node, nothing is modified. So this modified transaction ID will have the same ID as that of the created ZX ID. Okay. Now, what does this structure do? Okay. So I told you it actually allows coordination of multiple activities. So this coordination, it also allows recovery. Okay, so how does it happen, that recovery coordination? So we have this mzx id. So whenever suppose if I have say suppose a data structure file path like test slash, suppose I have a path called a. Okay, and in that I have a data called hello world initially, but now I am changing it to just simple hello. So initially hello world it will be there. So it will be 0x011. This will be mzxid 001 only. But when I'm changing the data of that, okay, so what happens, this mzxid will reflect it, means how many times I'm changing. So when I'm doing it, the first modification, it will be incremented by 1, 0x001. If again I am changing the data, it will be 002. Okay, so the content of that particular node, if I'm changing, that will be represented reflected in the parameter called mzxid. So we have another parameter called pzxid. Okay, pzxid basically, so suppose if you're doing the change to a child node, okay, that change, suppose for a child node, in that I have suppose slash a1 data, a1 node created, child node created, and in that a1 child node, whatever modification I'm doing and how many times I'm doing, that pzxid will get incremented. Okay, so a detailed description of czxid, mzxid, pzxid, how does it changes, okay, that I've given in the link here. Okay, so you can just go through it and you will be able to easily understand. Okay, so we have another parameters. The few parameters which we'll discuss here is C time. C time is when the transaction ID, when the newly node is being created, that time it will record. Okay, so that is a created timestamp. M time is basically when it was modified. So if the path is, if that node is modified with some other data, so that modified time, that MZID will uh, mzid whenever it gets updated, that timestamp m time will store. Okay, so we similarly have data version. Okay, data version is basically how many times the data of that particular z node is changed, and c version basically keep records of the number of changes to the child node. Okay, we have something called as access control version. So we will define who and all are going to access it. So if there is an access control change in that, that access control version is also being corrected here. So we have an ephemeral honor. Ephemeral honor is basically, so suppose if that node is just for this particular session. Okay, so between this client and server, just for this particular session, these nodes are being, zookeeper nodes are being, or zookeeper tree nodes are being created. So that ephemeral honor will have that particular session ID to it. Okay, so it will be like a temporary. After this communication is over, this ephemeral honor will get be zero, and this zookeeper node will no longer be active. Okay, so data length is what is the total size of the data length which that particular node is storing. And num children, the term in terminology itself is implicates the number of children. Okay, so this is the type of structure, stat structure, which each z nodes. Okay, each z node, z node means basically the nodes in that zookeeper tree which we have seen here. Okay, um, each node is called z node, and each z node has these many attributes. So that is how it maintains. Okay, that is how it maintains the state means from one state to another state, what is the transaction ID, what is the number of changes, how many changes are there, at what timestamp the changes. So all these stat structure helps in recovery from a failure. Okay, or a recovery, it helps in what do we say, a monitoring of how actually the transaction transition from one particular instance to how many modification has happened, all that can be tracked easily. So basically, if I just summarize, okay, the z nodes, okay, contains data which will indicate the version number of the data, so changes to the access control list, and it will contain a lot of timestamps. Timestamps means when it was created, when it was modified, all that timestamps. And definitely the data length means how much data length or how much data is stored and what is the length of the data, all will be stored in the Z node. Okay, so I hope I could give you a brief summary of all these attributes. Okay, a detailed link for as soon as each node is created, each child node is created, that link I have attached in the notes. Okay, so please look, go into it, see to it. The main attributes of the static structure, okay, like this C zookeeper transaction ID, modified zookeeper transaction ID, all these are particularly not listed in the textbook. Okay, it is just briefly given that the Z nodes will contain access control list, version number. So what is all that? How it is represented? I just want to show you. So I have kept this slide. Okay. So once you go through the textbook, you will be able to know. So this is not much required, just for your understanding. Okay. When since I've explained, go through that link, understand how the transformation happens, how this CZX ID changes, MZX ID changes, this PZX ID changes, okay, because it's important, okay. So this is basically about the static structure of the Z nodes, which is there in the Zookeeper. So Zookeeper basically have following service guarantees. So how it actually does this service guarantees? Okay, so these have the four properties it follows. That is a sequential consistency of the updates. As I told you before only, it follows a FIFO order, means how this sequence of commands have arrived at the server. In that same order, that sequence of commands will be executed. Okay, first in, first out. Okay, so that is strictly followed in a Zookeeper. Second thing is about atomicity. Atomicity is means either the transaction is completely implemented, or else if it fails, it is not implemented at all. Okay, so another thing is single system image. This also I have told you what is a single system image. So the client can actually connect to any of these servers. So it won't know which server it is being connected to, but what it sees is just a single single state, means it just see a single UI. Okay, so that background which server it is being connected to, it won't be able to see. So but main thing is whichever client is requesting for that response, okay, requesting for the response, every client should get the same response. So that is more important. Okay, the another factor is about the reliability. So when you're talking about reliability, so obviously the system should guarantee to function correctly. Okay, so one major thing is here, always in the Zookeeper, it always follows that the server, the number of servers should be in odd number. So why? Because so even if if even if there is one server outage, the other servers can take up or replicate that outage server, okay, and perform that function. Okay, so that is what it is, provides reliability. So usually, okay, usually, and when we say that we have a leader and then follower, usually the number of servers which the Zookeeper takes is always in number of odd number, because after the one, it can be a leader, another can be follower. Okay, so like it's like a majority vote can be taken, like that it is. Okay, so system should guarantee to function correctly, okay, as long as the majority of the servers function correctly. Okay, the last point is timeliness, or the eventual consistency. So eventual consistency, it can be also called as the persistence of update. That is, once an update is persisted, means once an update is done by the leader, okay, it can only be overwritten until a new request is coming from the client. Okay, so that is these consistency guarantees which the Zookeeper provides. Okay, the other basic, that is the API of the Zookeeper, okay, consists of many operations. So basically, the mainly 7 operations are discussed in the textbook. Okay, so the textbook, I've already put it in the teams. Okay, that is cloud computing, Dancy, Marinesco. That module is, I guess, chapter 6. Okay, so cloud resource, that is uh, cloud computing applications and paradigm. That's the chapter. So from there, for this zookeeper operations, it has mainly specified basically the 7 operations. Okay, so I'll just list those 7 operations. So it is create, delete, get data, okay, set data, get children, okay, and the sync. So all other operations are extra parameters, and every parameter operation, the description is given, and it is actually quite relatable. So create means it will create a Z node, delete means delete a Z nodes. So get data means it will retrieve what are the data associated with that particular Z node. I have explained before. So suppose if it is a test and then followed by a node called A, it will have a hello world data. Later, I want to modify the data that suppose it is only just hello. So what is that data? Get data associated with each Z node. Okay. Then there is get children means so how many children are there for each of the Z nodes? Okay. And sync means sync is basically when we are using the write operation. So it has to update the updated request generated by the client to till the child node. Okay, so that is sync. So it basically waits for the data to get propagated and get updated in it each of the Z node. Okay, so I hope the Z node operations, okay, is clear. Why do we need a zookeeper? That also we have discussed, because it allows the dynamic workflow. Also it allows coordination of dynamic workflow means what? It basically enhances the coordination of multiple activities. So we have discussed the zookeeper here. Okay, so these are the explanation of each of the service guarantees which we have already discussed. Okay, the operations also, these are straight away from the textbook. Okay, so explanations. So we say, right, it's zookeeper, it's basically a coordination service based on a state machine model. So why do we call it a state machine model? Because it maintains these states, that is, uh, whether it is not connected, if it is connected, it passes through the connecting state, and once it is connected and all the service is being given or the response is given to the client, it will close that connection. So it will go through all these possible states. So that's why we say that zookeeper is based on a state machine model. Okay, state machine model. So I just showed you, this also is not there. Okay, this also I took it from the API of zookeeper. Okay, apache.org link, you can also go through it. Okay, so the second thing which we'll discuss about is, till now what we have discussed is about how to provide the coordination of different multiple activities. So first one we have discussed is about workflow. Then we discussed that it can be given using workflow definition language, but that workflow definition language or workflow process definition language is basically static. So we needed something for dynamic workflow. So for that dynamic workflow, we have discussed about the zookeeper, which actually provides dynamic coordination of multiple activities. Okay, so there is one more aspect to this is, uh, we always talk about cloud elasticity. Okay, so every topic we are starting from is cloud elasticity. So here, what we are going to discuss is the map reduce. Why are we discussing about map reduce here is, so here also the cloud computing needs elasticity. Elasticity means, uh, suppose if data intensive computing application is there, so in order to reduce its execution time, we might want it to be distributed to n number of servers. So that n number of servers, we will never know, it might not be priorly defined how many servers we need. Okay, so that is what cloud supports, right? The elasticity, that's just in time infrastructure, that is what cloud supports. So that divisibility of the workload, okay, the divisibility of the workload is of two type. That is, one is modularly divisible, means where the workload partitioning is defined priori means already predefined. So it's like a static workload. Okay, where it's not static workload, it's like statically defined, means you get a when a request is done, we are going to divide it in say n servers. So sometimes some application or some load will be coming at some point of time where it is not possible to uh, predefine the how many number of servers will be required. Okay, but that should be divisible. That workload should be divisible. But how much to how many numbers that instances should be divisioned? Okay, that is not sure. So that is something called as arbitrarily divisible. Means the workload can be partitioned into an arbitrary large number of smaller workloads. Okay, uh, either of equal or very close size. Okay, so this is actually provided by, okay, so this against arbitrary divisible workload again means it supports cloud elasticity, and that is done here through something called as map reduce philosophy. Okay, so map reduce is basically it's a simple idea. Okay, so it helps parallel processing. Okay, parallel processing, please note, parallel processing of the data intensive application. Okay, so data intensive application means sometimes the workload will be too much, sometimes the workload will be less, so we can never predict. So this allows actually arbitrary divisibility of the workload. Okay, so one of the major applications where we use MapReduce, okay, is suppose if I want to just access, uh, uh, I want to know the count of the URL access URL which are being accessed, or I just want to know in what frequency some of the URLs are being accessed. Okay, sometimes this actually helps. Sometimes I want to know just I want to do a service which basically does a prediction and a recommendation analysis. Okay, so in that case lots and lots of data will be there, so we have to see that data, we have to do that background processing and finally give the result. Okay, so that is where the MapReduce come into picture. Did anyone heard of MapReduce before in any other area? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me that area? You might have heard it in big data, right?
It's used clustering, like for k-means scalable. I
Sorry,
read
sorry.
about. Sorry, my mic is bad. One second. Am I audible now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
It's using clustering in k-means. There's a new in k-means parallel, which is an improvement on k-means plus plus, and they use it for weighted clustering, map reduce.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So basically, like MapReduce philosophy, okay, or the MapReduce concept is used in big data. Okay, big data means you have a large data, and that large data you have to analyze it. So there will be a mapper which will divide that particular application into m instances. Okay, and that m instances will carry out the process. Okay, carry out the process, and finally whatever they have processed, that results will be fed into reducer function. So in that reducer function, basically what happens here is they will either do a sorting or a combination. Okay, so it sorting or combination is based upon application specific. Okay, so they will do a either if there is a sorting or there is a shuffling, uh, or if it is just has to be combined, so that phase is done at the reduction phase, and finally the output is given. Okay, so that same philosophy is what is written here. So I'll just show you it with a suitable example. Okay, so suppose if we have a big application which coming up with a lots of data, so we have a master instance. That master instance first uh, divide the whole application how into how many segments it has to be divided. So it will divide it. So it will create that many instances. So that many instances will actually access that much number of segments. This is also derived from that application itself. So once they access these segments and process the result which is processed, it will be stored here in the local disk. Okay, once it is stored here in the local disk, the reduction instances, the reduced instances. Okay, so m instances, there will be lesser number of reduction instances. So sometimes the reduction instances will be sharing these local disk. Okay, so these reduction instances will take that processed result from the mapper instances, and as I told you before, so sometimes it will be doing a shuffling or a sorting or a combination approach. Okay, and it will finally give the results to the shared storage that will be retrieved and it will be fed to the client. Okay, so I will just show you one small example here. Okay, so suppose, okay, just a small example. So suppose if you want to know, these are the following statements which have come in as the input from the application. So the requirement is here is what percentage of user base, okay, what percentage of user base are talking about games. Okay, so they just want to know. So this is like a prediction and an analysis. Okay, so these are the statements which have come. It might be from a Facebook feed or a Twitter feed. Okay, so we want to know how much of the population is are talking about the topic called games. Okay, just the games. Okay, so in that case, how do you do so this is just say some 10 lines of sentences, so that is easy. We can just pick up. So football is one of the games. Okay, Olympics is also one of the games. So gold medal is also related to the game, so we can actually easily quantify it here. But when it is just huge, say it like terabytes of data, how we are going to process it? So in that case, we need to have this map reduce philosophy, which we'll discuss. So how it works here is, so what do we do here is, so here, if since this is just 10 or so statements, we will give each of the statements to each of the mapper instances. So hi, how are you? We love football. So hi, how are you will be given to one instance. We love football to another mapper instance. He is an awesome football player to another mapper instance. So all these mapper instances will have each of these statements. Now what do we do here? We will define a mapper function such that it will identify the keywords, like how much is or what is a count of the keywords which are related to the football game. Okay, or which are related to the games. So suppose if we want to know what percentage of user base is talking. So games, we know that football, okay, Olympics, gold medal can be few keywords which can be related to the games. Okay, so with each of the mapper instances, what do they do is these subset, that is football, gold medal or Olympics, they will try to find the count of that particular word. Okay, so declare a function map. So it will loop for each word. Okay, and first word here it is football. Okay, and it will increment the counter. Similarly, such a mapper will go for each of the sentence and it will find for Olympics how much is the count, for gold medal how much is the count, for cricket how much is the count. So mapper function basically what it does is it will form a uh, key comma value pair. Okay, so now the mapper instances have provided a key comma value pair, means the input, that is the output of the mapper is for a particular keyword, that is football, two times it has been found. For an Olympic, that keyword has been found three times. Gold medal, it has been only found only one time. Okay, now this output of the mapper will be given as an input to the reducer function. Okay, input to the reducer function. Now reducer function, what it will does is all these keywords are basically what, it's a subset of the game, right? We want to know something about how much the population is discussing about games. Okay, so for games we can identify that football, Olympics, gold medal, all are part of the games. So now what does it do is it will convert each of this key value pair to a counter value, means it will add value to the counter. So here our main keyword is games, so it will add up all these value pairs. Okay, and it will assign it as a counter value. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So total user population in all of these sentences for games, games were, when we were talking about games, basically six keywords has come into picture. Okay, so this is like so suppose here, if it is just if somebody is talking about weather. Okay, so some we can do a comparative analysis. How much of the user population is talking about weather? So in that case, weather means what, it's too hot, it is humidity. Okay, so that are the keywords. Okay, so they will have a count for that weather. So they can do a comparative analysis, that is the majority of the population is talking about games because it is six in number, and whether for the weather it might be say two or three. So majority of the population is talking about games. So such an analysis can be come out from this map reduce functionality. So I hope with this simple example you are able to see or understand the MapReduce concept. Okay, so just understand basically what is a mapper. Okay, mapper is basically it will produce the output in form of key comma value pair. In the reduction phase, it is here it is combined. Sometimes say suppose it has to be sorted. Okay, sometimes that requires a shuffling. Okay, shuffling means say in one mapper instance it is for one mapper instance has given that football they have talked about in only one time. Another mapper instance they will say for in that sentence map football is talked about two times. So in that shuffling case, in that case the total outcome will be football is talked about three times, like that. Okay, so here it is a simple algorithm which have been applied. So it gives a total count of each of these keywords, and the reduction function or the reduce function will give the total outcome of all these the summation of all these keywords, and it will give say that the majority population was talking about games and the number is 6. I hope this example was easy and you could follow the map reduce philosophy. And so the where we can actually apply here is it can help we can help it to use it for prediction and recommending analysis. Okay, basically map reduce helps in parallel computing as we have seen. So for each other mapper we are going to give each of this key value pair and give a count like that. Okay, so this is the application of MapReduce. Uh, so finally, we have completed, okay, the different architectural styles of cloud client server communication. Okay, we have discussed about the workflow, the coordination of multiple activities using Zookeeper, and how the cloud supports the elasticity and division of division of workloads using MapReduce philosophy. So I hope you have understood. If you have doubts in any of these topics, okay, please do get back to me. Okay, I have already uploaded the textbook, so it will be helpful to you. And the slides are all in detail, and the links also I have tried to give many whatever links I am accessing to get that information. Okay, so that links I am putting it in the notes. So if you're not able to access, if you need any clarification, do get back to me. Okay, all right. So I'll just take here 10 minutes break, and okay, so we'll start the next session. It's based on the third module, that is fourth module, that is the virtualization. Okay, so I'll just stop the recording here.